What is season UID? This is also something we had last time. If we throw in something, one of the things we see here is the season UID, and this is also kind of like set in stone to some degree. And so, yeah, we have the season UID, and it's usually an integer, like for example, 118 or 116 in this case. So a session-wide unique identifier, let me just dive into the original. It's the operators. Is it this one? Oh, yeah. A session-wide unique identifier for the data block that remains the same across renames and internal reallocations, unhinged when reloading the file. So one of the things I always didn't like about these kind of documentations is always it's so vague, it's very abstract. One of my favorite things about software like my UI user interface and so on is that they actually give you examples. So if we, for example, let's pick up a Maya ls command. So what I like about it generally is it looks kind of old, the formatting and stuff. But with the examples and stuff, there a lot of times they can basically kind of deepen the understanding a little bit more of how the things work. They have multiple levels of explanation. I think always this is a great way to approach this, where I feel like something like this can be still, I read it, I still don't know. So that's also something I want to encourage you. Generally become good at reading this as much as possible. Don't just be in forums. This is very, very helpful if you become someone who's good in reading this. Documentation stuff, it is key element to anything, but it can be still confusing if you read something like this and it's like, okay, it's about a unique identifier, versus the name and so on, but not always is it like, clear what that means. So just be aware that this is very kind of like can be confusing. So it's not always written, for the user in mind. Oftentimes it's, kind of developer who are very kind of focused already, and they don't write it particularly for people who understand exactly the details. So this can be sometimes super, super confusing. Would be happy to have a little bit more clear description sometimes, but that's what we get. Blender has its own Stack Exchange if you're interested. Sure, if you have like a link or something, let me know. I'm happy to do. Blender and Unreal has this API list, not much context there. Yes, yeah. Honestly, last time when we did that, I also felt a little bit stuck with this. I find something like Maya, even though it's a little bit old, it's still kind of, it works. It's useful. Something like Nuke API is fine. Houdini API, similar level. I think the Blender API so far is slightly disappointing, I would say. So would be nice if it would be a little bit less, like a little bit more, as you said, I think context is exactly what is missing a little bit here sometimes. It feels very technical, like basically probably generated API from the code itself. So yeah, a little bit missing on that front. Okay, so again, I wouldn't say particularly this is 100% clear, but we have an idea what that means. And again, a lot of these times, and I think that's very important, needs context for ourselves. So the moment we work with this, it is oftentimes helpful for just to understand, okay, this is where this is going, and then when we work with it over time, we figure that out. So I'm pretty sure over time we get a sense for all this kind of environments the moment we get deeper into certain aspects. So, but at least we know the basics of it.